Hello, it's Sunday afternoon. Nice day to relax a little more. We had a big class this morning and then a big breakfast together. So I talked to the class. I taught a little bit of a different class yesterday because Saturday we do the lead class here. And we talked about how boring primary series seems to many people. Um, because if you keep doing it and you're doing it for a very long period of time, my teacher was old school from the 70s, very much in favor of moving quickly into an intermediate series to create balance in the nervous system and in the body. But the idea of boring, I'm from America, and to be bored is a bad thing. Mostly, most people would agree with that. But the idea of it being the same thing over and over again is what a sadhana is. Sadhana is a spiritual practice. So we have to have, how do I say it? The idea of it being the same thing over and over again is what it's supposed to be, because then you have a gauge to um, notice the changes and the differences in yourself, in your inner being, when you can only measure that when you're doing the same thing. It's kind of like a litmus test of, you have to keep it against this wall to keep noticing, oh, I'm a little bit softer this day. Oh, I'm a little bit more tense this day. Oh, I'm a little bit more. So, is there energy moving today? You can notice it when you're doing the same thing over and over again. So, the idea of a sadhana or of making something a sadhana is to keep doing the same thing over and over again, because that is how it's done, really. You're, say, that's a good way to say it. You have to say you're doing this chiseling a stone into carving a stone into an image, and you're working on one spot and it's not moving, so you give up. If you give up, that misshapen piece of stone is going to constantly be there, and you have to keep working until that piece is gone. If you think also about a rock dropped into a river, the water keeps flowing, and the water doesn't stop flowing because the water needs to keep flowing, because that is what smooths out that piece of the stone, makes the space happen so the water can flow more freely again. So you can think of it either way. You can think of it simply as doing the same thing over and over again and getting bored, or you can think of it as a test of the self. Can I do this again and notice how I'm feeling and be okay with it? Or am I one of these people who needs a brand new thing all the time? If you need a brand new thing all the time, you probably don't have a lot of depth of character, a lot of depth of spirit. This is all about spirit. Sadhana is about spirit. Sadhana is about making this thing a spiritual practice. And so that's why when I was trying out other kinds of yoga, I never felt as deep as I do with Ashtanga. Sometimes also with Kundalini yoga, because they do the same thing all the time as well. It needs to be the same. Say you're doing, you've started studying Tantra and you get a mantra from your guru. You do the mantra, and you do the same mantra, maybe for years, thousands and thousands of times. And you don't just stop doing it, or you can just stop doing it, but then your guru's going to get fed up with giving you anything else to work on, because the idea is you're still doing it again and again and again until that thing that it's supposed to do happens. It needs to open you up. It needs to unlock your potential. It needs to unlock the energy so the energy can flow within the body, in the energetic body, all around you. And for you to be aware of these things and be a part of this is really what this is all about. So the idea of a sadhana is it should be boring. And then you see one day, all of a sudden, you're not bored with it. You're noticing new different things. You've gone a little deeper. You've surpassed that little bump in the road that was there, um, making you have the idea that you were suffering, I should say, because you're not really suffering, you're just doing the same thing again. Suffering, I mean, if you're suffering and you can't have dinner because you don't have the money for it and you're living on the street, there's levels of suffering. Suffering doing the same thing over and over again doesn't necessarily mean suffering. It just means you're doing the same thing again and you don't like it, you're bored with it. So get bored and then stay bored until you're not bored anymore, because it will change. And if you stick with it, you're going to get some benefits and results that are going to enhance your whole life. And you're going to see things in a different way because you've worn down that bump in the road. There was a thing I was reading because I do sadhana that has to do with smashan kali. Smashana is the cremation grounds that are present in most places in India. And the thing I was reading, if you know about yoga at all, you know about the Sushumna Nadi, the Ida Nadi, and the Pingala Nadi. The Ida Nadi is the lunar, the Pingala Nadi is the solar. And the idea is the Sushumna Nadi is the goal to clean out the other two so much and to use your bandhas enough to get the energy going up the Sushumna. And the Sushumna is the smashana of the body. So you'll come to a point where that clear channel, what you think is going to be a clear channel, once you get the energy going there, there's a bump in there, and you're doing your mantra, and you're doing your mantra, and you're doing your mantra, and you're doing your mantra. Or if you're using Ashtanga as a sadhana practice, Ashtanga, the asana practice as a sadhana, you're doing the same thing again and again and again until that energy flows smoothly through there. So say you're doing, I'll use the mantra because it makes it a little bit easier. There's a bump in that supposedly clear channel, and that bump was caused by years and years of samskaras, of patterns in your life that have created this bump of energy that is blocked because you're not dealing with something, you're not dealing with some feeling, you're not dealing with some event happening in your past, or you're anxious about some event coming in the future. So it's created this block of emotional energy or whatever kind of energy there. And the mantra is like the river, and you're chanting it, but it gets really hard when you feel this one spot, maybe around one certain syllable in the mantra, if the mantra is in Sanskrit, maybe around a different part of your spine, maybe you're feeling it mentally, but there's something. And so you keep doing it, and slowly the mantra smooths out that bump. And then you notice that you find peace a lot more easily, that you're calm a lot more easily, that you have no problem being with more ease. You don't have so much trouble just sitting there, reading, being distracted by your mind. You're able to sit there and read, or you're able to sit there and do nothing. You're able to sit there and watch TV, or you're able to sit and do nothing and be okay with it. Close your eyes and just listen, breathe, and feel. Maybe you've worked through that, past that bump. So sadhana has that ability, and that's what you really want to do. Is if you're using the Ashtanga yoga asana practice as a sadhana, eventually you want it to smooth out all of the bumps in that nadi so that the energy can flow. If you have a mantra sadhana, or a puja sadhana, or you're doing homas based on something your guru has taught you, this is all coming from a teacher who sees these things in you and gives you a certain thing based on that, and then gives you the next thing when they feel you're ready. Like Ashtanga, you're getting the next posture. Once you've smoothed something out and the body's ready to receive it, your teacher gives you the next one. If you got a mantra and that mantra's finally smoothed out, that central channel, they give you a new mantra that's going to hit a different bump because it goes deeper in a different way. This is sadhana, and you're still doing it even though it's boring. And you get to the point where it's not boring anymore. Doesn't mean it's exciting. It just means that it is what it is, and you have to be okay with it. And once you get okay with it, that's when you find the stability in your mind. Stability is really the key word. When you're doing Ashtanga Yoga, the idea, and Shrat used to say this in conference a lot, is about finding stability within yourself, within your body, when you get stability within your body, then stability within your mind is there also, or it's just right around the corner. Same thing with mantra. When you are chanting mantra, manas is mind. You're subduing the mind. Or really, I like to think of it more of you're not subduing the mind, you're giving the mind something to do so that you can be behind the mind and stand there watching it and get to this calm space without so much effort. And it's cumulative. So as you've done this longer and longer and longer, it gets easier to maintain that. And then you find a simpler trick or a simpler technique that gets you there more easily. That's why you see a lot of these old yogis, the yogis that I think of when you think of the go into caves in the Himalayas. That's why they get to a point where they do less asana or they do less mantra. They don't have to do it so much because they can just notice this place in their mind and flip the switch and be there, be in exactly where they want to be. That's the end, not the end goal. That's one of the goals because the end never really comes. You always get to a new level of things. Okay? So I just wanted to say that because we had talked about the boringness of this and in class yesterday, and this isn't just for those students, it can be for anyone who hears it and hears it in a way that helps you figure out something new about yourself. Okay? Have a great day. Bye.